All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are talking about a pretty huge shift in how we get things done, moving from that constant grind and effort into a state of what you might call alignment. And honestly, this is a concept that could literally change how you approach, well, everything.
So, it all starts with a question I think we've all asked ourselves at some point, right? You look around and you see some people having these incredible breakthroughs, these moments of healing or finding abundance, while others are just struggling, pushing so hard and getting almost nowhere. What is going on there? Why does it work for them and not for us?
Well, here's the thing. The answer, it turns out, has nothing to do with trying harder or putting in more effort. It's not about forcing the outcome you want. It's actually all about a simple but really powerful shift inside your own consciousness. It's a complete move from doing to just being.
Now, to really get a grip on this shift, we first have to understand that there's kind of this hidden law operating behind the scenes, especially behind the things we often call miracles.
And that's called the law of unity consciousness. Is this core idea that your mind, your spirit, and the physical world, matter itself, they aren't separate things that are just bumping into each other. No, they are all just different expressions of one single unified field. Everything is deeply, fundamentally connected.
So if you look at it that way, a so-called miracle isn't some random fluke that breaks the laws of nature. It's actually the natural result of someone aligning with a deeper, more fundamental law, this law of unity. It's not supernatural, it's just tapping into a different kind of physics, a spiritual physics, you could say.
Okay, so if we are all part of this one unified thing, where do we go so wrong? Well, it all comes down to this incredibly powerful illusion that almost all of us live under, the myth of separation. And this lays out the cycle we get trapped in perfectly. It starts when we see our goal, whether it's health or a relationship or money, as something out there, totally separate from us. And of course, that immediately creates a feeling of lack, of not having. So what do? We try to close that gap with force, with willpower, with effort. But here's the kicker. What if that very act of trying is the thing that's blocking us?
This big misunderstanding, it leads to 3 really common patterns or blockages that keep us stuck in that exhausting loop of effort and struggle.
So let's break this down. First, we buy into the illusion of separation. There's me, and there's the thing I want way over there. Second, we use force and willpower to try and bridge that imaginary gap. And third, because this whole process is built on a false idea and feels so hard, we come to believe that any real change must take a long, long time. And that just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, doesn't it?
But what if there's another way entirely? This is where we move from the problem to the solution. This is the shift to alignment. Let's really explore what this new path looks like.
And here you can see the 2 paths side by side. It's so clear. The path of effort is all about separation. It's about asking for something from a place of lack. But the path of alignment, that starts from a place of oneness. It's about allowing what's already a part of you to be expressed. It's a total game changer, from getting to allowing.
And this quote just nails it. The impossible only seems that way from our limited viewpoint of being separate. But the moment you align with that deeper truth of unity, the rules of what's possible, they just completely change.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually live like this? How do we make this shift practical and real in our everyday lives? Let's get into the actionable habits that help us build this new state of being. So, habit number 1 is to literally change your inner conversation. Instead of asking for healing or asking for abundance, like it's something you have to go out and get, you start to acknowledge the wholeness that is already a part of who you are.
And this is the principle behind that habit. See, when you're asking, you are reinforcing the belief that you don't have it. But when you're acknowledging, you're tuning your own consciousness to the reality that it's already here, that it already exists within that unified field. You're not trying to create it, you're just recognizing it.
Okay, habit number 2. Start to recognize that everything is vibrational. Think of your consciousness like a radio tuner. If you're tuned into the frequency of lack, or fear, or separation, well, that's the station you're going to hear. But when you consciously tune your thoughts and your feelings to the frequency of wholeness or abundance, the physical world has to start reflecting that. You're not forcing it, you're just changing the channel.
And this brings us to the ultimate principle behind all of this, and it's so simple, it's just the number 1. It's the idea that it is all one. Your consciousness and what shows up in your life, they aren't 2 separate things. They are a single, unified process. Your inner world and your outer world are just two sides of the very same coin. And when you really start to internalize these habits, that third blockage, that belief that change has to take a long time, it just starts to dissolve. Because if there's truly no separation, then there's no distance to travel, right? There's no gap to bridge. Change doesn't have to be this long, drawn-out fight. It can literally happen in an instant.
Let this one really sink in for a moment. This is the core takeaway. The health you want, the peace you want, the abundance you want, it is not something you have to go find or build from scratch. It's a fundamental aspect of who you already are. The whole journey is not about getting something. It's about recognizing something.
And when that recognition goes from just a cool idea in your head to something you fully embody, something you live and breathe, your whole life starts to change. The things that once seemed miraculous or totally impossible start to become your normal, natural way of being in the world.
So, the final question I want to leave you with is this. What new reality becomes possible for you when you stop trying so hard to create it and instead just allow it to be expressed through you? What could show up in your life if you truly, finally recognized the wholeness that's already here? Thanks for listening.